Went on Facebook and just looked at events and to see what was going on for the day while I'm here. And I saw that there is a group called OSE was organizing a Anarchist Hangout at the park in order to make signs and just kind of chill and gather supplies for the May Day March here in Portland tomorrow. Because obviously, if people aren't aware of the May Day March, it's one of the oldest and most important workers' solidarity demonstrations in the world, and it's tomorrow, May 1st. And so, so I said, okay, I'm going to go to that. And then I also saw at 5 o'clock, there is a panel discussion in not associated with this event I just went to, but that's there's journalists and historians and professors who are going to be talking about the Jewish diaspora during the rise of Nazi Germany.
Okay.
So I'm going to go check that out, and I'm going to check in with you after we go to that.
Yeah.
And then tonight, there is a anarchist benefit show, basically just to get rid of police. Is essentially the gist of it. And there's like 4 or 5 bands playing. Police.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they want to end police apparently. So I'm going to go to this, and there's like one of the bands was what was it? The Latter Day Skanks is one of the bands that's playing.
I would definitely go see that band, bro.
So I'm going to check in with you on that too. So, but let me give you a little rundown.
Get some video of that if you can, dude.
Okay. And so I went to the Waterfront Park, and I found the OSE group, and which is Oregon Students Empowered. And I got there, and bro, I can't tell you how impressed I was. It was only just like 3 or 4. One of them was 14 years old, and he is Oregon Students Empowered. It's this 14-year-old kid that put this thing together to get people to come out and make signs for May Day March tomorrow. And he was super, super awesome kid, dude. I was slobbering all over him, telling him how cool he was. You know what I mean? Because he was super smart. He had historic context and understanding. This kid has obviously been reading or paying attention or something, because he knew his stuff really well, man. And there was a couple other, another punk rocker dude there hanging out, and they were super interested in what's going on with Antifa nationally. And so we talked a little bit about my experiences at Berkeley, and he told me about a very significant situation that went down this week, where there was a similar, quote unquote Trump supporter rally in Portland, right? Which is, it was just a fucking Nazi rally. And I asked him, so what, like KK flags and the little Pepe salute and stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, totally, and there was people actually doing Z Heils and stuff. And they said that there was definitely a black bloc presence, but they're really, really upset. Apparently the anarchist community here in Portland, or at least according to these kids, I'm sure they're not the voice of all anarchists in Portland, but according to them, the mayor here, Wheeler, is totally in bed with these different far right-wing groups, to the point where this rally that they were telling me about did not have permits. It was not a permitted rally. And they showed up, and the cops not only completely protected them, but put them in a bus and transported them out of the event safely when it was over. A state-funded taxpayer to put all these fucking Nazis and stuff on it, right? To protect them.
What, in the name of free speech?
Right. To protect them from these, radical extremist anarchists who are basically just saying, dude, you can't be a racist fuck in our streets, and you can't spread that hatred and division in our communities, and you can't recruit in our communities. And this whole concept, Michael, about, hate speech, free speech, that we're stomping on their free speech. I have news for the world. Okay. I'm not the U.S. government, and you're the government that's probably listening. You're not the government either. And you're not bound for anyone's fucking free speech. The First Amendment says that the government can't decide what you can or can't say, but it doesn't say that I can't fucking show up.
I thought it said that you could speak out against your government. That you could talk shit about your government and not get thrown in jail. Because in other countries,
you have the right to free speech.
Right.
You have the right to assemble. Well, let me tell you have the right to free speech. You have the right to assemble. You have the right to freedom of press and freedom of the religion. Okay, and the government can't interfere with any of that. But you know what? If you want to express your freedom of speech on the street and your freedom of speech, if I believe that it result in the death and misery of others, I have a right to practice my freedom of speech and drown you the fuck out and confront you on it. Me doing that, and the representatives of Antifa, when they do that, if they do it nonviolently, they're trampling or doing anything nefarious or negative against that other side's right to free speech. Drowning you out and blowing off flashbangs so that you can't hear and playing music super loud so nobody can hear your speeches. That is not an infringement on someone's free speech rights because it's not the government doing it. It's an expression of our fucking free speech. So anyway, dude, I just had a great time talking with these kids. They were really turned on, man. Of course, I pushed the show and the main dude that was organizing this event, I can't even believe it, man. He's 14 years old, man, and he's out here organizing. That's how it's done, man.
That's incredible.
To our listeners, if you feel like you can't do it, man, this kid just started a page to come out and make stuff with you, and it was just super impressive. So, hey, to the OSE and my comrades I just met in the park, man, what's up, dude? Keep it up. Stay in touch with us, man. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, I'm on.
So, hey, bro, I'm going to let you go, Mike, and I'm going to check in with you a couple more times, and then ultimately we'll wrap up this show with coverage of tomorrow's May Day celebration.
Sounds like a plan, bro.
All right, bro. So I'll be in talk with you. I don't know. I'll get back to you soon.
All right. Be safe, brother.
Cool.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Several books, including Words from Abroad, Trauma and Displacement in Post-War German Jewish Writers, which came out in 2005, and a book called Mixed Feelings, Tropes of Love in German Jewish Culture, very recently out with Cornell University Press. She's written many articles on figures maybe familiar to you, like Franz Kafka, Paul Celan, Theodor Adorno, and Arendt. She's currently co-editing a book on the reemergence of Jewish literature in post-unification Germany, and she's been a visiting fellow at a number of prestigious institutions, including Harvard and the Woodrow Wilson Foundation, and I'll also say she's been a very warm supporter of Holocaust and Genocide Studies Project at Portland State. I want to just thank her for her good colleagueship over the years. I really appreciate it. She teaches a number of courses at Reed, including the famous Humanities 220, German language and German literature and German Jewish culture. So we have a very fluent and highly skilled scholar. Welcome. And finally, I'll just say our star for the day, Andrea Stolwitz, our playwright. Andrea has a BA from Barnard College in Russian language and literature, and she has a number of advanced credentials to her name, including a fellowship in creative writing at Columbia and an MFA in playwriting earned at UC San Diego in 2000. Andrea is currently a resident company member at ART here, correct? In Portland, yes. Where she's received a new play commission and she has a number of really interesting things about Oregon, which I saw one of them about a month ago. It's awesome. Let's see. Andrea has many accomplishments and prizes to her name. I'll just say quickly, she premiered a play called Ithaca in 2013, which got a lot of excellent press, grants, and had a Midwest premiere in Chicago in 2014. So she comes to this new success riding a wave of real accomplishment.
Mike?
What's up, dude?
So, round 2 of On Location in Portland, right? So we went to this the panel discussion for the play, following the play Berlin Diary. We didn't go to the play. It was running from April 13th until today. Today was the last run of it. So we weren't able to make the play, but we did catch the panel discussion afterwards. And what Berlin Diary is, I actually misunderstood a little bit what it was. I thought it was going to be a panel discussion on the sort of Jewish diaspora in Europe leading up to through the rise of Nazi Germany. But really what it was about, which was equally fascinating, was about the Jewish diaspora in Berlin today, now, and how it's still being directly affected by the Holocaust, that there's still trauma in people's lives who, because their grandparents, because their uncles, or, people who maybe weren't directly, didn't live through the Holocaust themselves, they're living in whatever country they live now, or, as a direct result of what happened in the Holocaust. So generations later, people are still experiencing trauma. It was a really amazing panel discussion. I'll give you a little rundown on the people who participated in it.
Okay.
Quick second, I have the paper here. So, so it was the actual producer and director of the play herself, Andrea Stolowitz, and but the discussion was facilitated by a professor of Jewish studies. That may not be exactly right, but that's really close to what she said, and she may have even said specifically Jewish studies, but at Portland State. And so her, sorry, where's her name? Professor Patricia Schechter, and then there was Professor Katya Garloff, who gave a great insight into the modern state of the Jewish diaspora in Berlin, and then also a journalist, Miriam Widman, who was amazing. This woman is obviously, she's been a journalist for about 7,000 years. And and has direct on the ground reporting from showing places that like monuments and landmarks and stuff in Berlin now, and kind of the history of what they had been through and how they've been destroyed and rebuilt, and how the Jewish community and has been directly affected by those changes in the landscape, and how they've affected these different landscapes over the years, and really, really, really super fascinating. So I also took a bunch of video of it, and I will post. I wasn't able to get the entire panel discussion, but I got the vast majority of it. So I'll put it together with a little bit of description, and we'll get that up on the Pucks for Progress page shortly. And I just want to tell the listeners, I'm gonna when we're done, I have a third place that we're gonna go to tonight, and we're gonna do a little recap. I'm gonna call in from that and talk to Mike again. And then tomorrow is the May Day March, which I've already mentioned, and I'm going to go to that tomorrow in Oakland. And so what we'll do is we'll come back after that show, and I'll give everybody kind of a little better recap of these different things I'm going to today, and then the activities and things that went on during the May Day March, as well as our regular weekly update on what the fuck is going on in the country and the world, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And there wasn't a whole lot of stuff, I think, that went on this week that was going to call for me and Mike to give a whole lot of discussion on. So that's why we felt this will be good stuff to throw in and fill an hour worth of, entertaining information, right? Well, hopefully entertaining, but. So that was a little bit of what I just went to, and then tonight, from here, I'm getting ready to go. From here, we're going to Ash Street Saloon here in Portland, and that's where there's the show organized by local anarchists, and it's and there's a bunch of bands playing, and there's going to be some people talking at the beginning of it, and that literally starts in like 15 minutes. So I'm going to hang up with you and head over there and maybe get some film and listen to the discussions and the speeches going on, and check out, there's 4 fucking punk rock bands. Well, I'm assuming they're punk rock bands. So I'm off. I'm going to go do that, bro.
Sounds good, bro. Take care.
Room with some of them who have really helped so much with this in the last 4 days. Like, each probably put in 36 hours total over the last 4 days to get all of our merch and all of the zines printed and everything ready. So thank you, you're fucking awesome. So I've been so busy that I I'm going to read from this because I did not memorize it. Hopefully I don't start crying. I was walking around campus today, and like the last few days, the sheer density of anarchist propaganda we pasted around the park blocks made a strong impression on me. I first started organizing with other anarchists 13 years ago in the Midwest. And there is no doubt in my mind that the potential for normalizing resistance is greater than ever before. Over the last few months, we have seen the exponential cropping up of anarchist affinity groups, the revival of old anarchist projects, and the invention of clever new anarchist tactics that I'm sure are right now inspiring new and revolutionary acts in the minds of the very people in this room. And while we all know this energy comes as a result of undeniably terrifying political climate, which is causing and will continue to cause unfathomable violence to some of the most vulnerable people, we can take some solace and find some comfort in the knowledge that the energy to strike down this oppression is not just brewing, but igniting. It has never been more clear that a single spark could burn the whole fucker down.
Yeah.
We believe that Portland could be that spark. It has never been more clear that one act done by a few people has the power to change minds across the country. With Portland Anarchist Road Care changing the perception of anarchists with one simple act, inspiring ads on regional radio, which have businesses touting themselves as performing services faster than an anarchist can fill a pothole. The level of coordination that is emerging in this city is truly outstanding. With interwoven relationships of various affinity groups, like the mysterious 17s, the growth of neighborhood action committees through Portland Assembly, and ongoing pressure on the city, especially on the police, from networks like Direct Action Alliance. It has never been clearer that a few creative, clever acts, like handing a mayor a Pepsi, could be heard around the world and change the future forever. On this eve of May Day, I am honored to repeat the words of August Spies as he was led to his death, not in glorification of martyrdom, because we need each and every one of you, but to remind us all of the power, of the profound power of even just a few people acting from the truth that anarchism burns into our hearts. Over 130 years ago, these words were spoken, and their promise rings true today. There will come a time when our silence will be more powerful than the voices you throttle today. Remember the power each one of you has. I'll see you in the streets tomorrow. Thank you.
So, I guess I'm speaking kind of generally, but I'm really excited about this new group, Samantha and those other folks who put together and the work that they're doing. I guess I want to talk about some of the reasons why I think that's really interesting.
Get ready.
Yeah. I've always felt that anarchism and radical politics are ultimately their best when we're forward thinking, when we're leaping ahead, when we're having the audacity to do something new, try new stuff. But it's really been a problem in the last few decades, at least, that a lot of so-called radicals or so-called anarchists have gotten in kind of a rut and kind of get trapped inside the same old way of doing things. We find a solution and we stick with that solution regardless if the problem changes. Thank you. All right, better?
Yeah.
All right. One of the main things that anarchism historically was really good at was leveraging technologies that were new, like back in the 1800s and stuff. So at the time, anarchists really became synonymous with things like the printing press and being able to put out pamphlets and be full of the zines really quick back then. Taking advantage of postering and things like that were revolutionizing the world. It had already come into effect in a lot of political movements, but it became a lot stronger. as anarchists use them. And of course, we also became like synonymous with dynamite, and like utilizing that for the first time. But a lot of other technologies, the getaway car was invented by anarchists, actually. So there's, there was a lot of ingenuity, there was a lot of creativity that was going on at the time, and that was really the site of some of anarchism's like best victories, right? And some of those victories sometimes don't look like victories, but it was things like splitting, calling out like the Marxism and saying, the state, the dictatorship of the proletariat was likely going to turn out just like the Soviet Union. And we said that 50 years before it happened, and it was totally proven correct. And that's the kind of looking to the future and making sure that the decisions that we make today are in line with our values and sync up with the direction that we want to go. Being aware of the different difficulties and challenges that can come and that can arise, and developing solutions and advancing them. And as I was saying earlier, that we have a big problem, especially today, with developing solutions. And we'll take like 10 years. We'll get stuck in a reactive rut from a lot of radicals. Where like something will happen, some sort of crisis will happen. The cops will do something new. Something will happen to our communities. A crisis will occur, and we will stumble trying to develop solutions to it. We'll turn back to the same old that we're used to, right? We'll throw our meetings, we'll do some basic things together, and we'll try the same things that we've always done because we're familiar with them, because they're comfortable, because they're habits. And we'll get locked into that, and then slowly, through practice on the streets, testing and trial and error, and just getting by, we'll develop better solutions. But then we have to popularize those solutions, and so we got a new tactic for something, and that tactic only works well. But then it takes 10 years for everybody else to realize that tactic works well, and for everybody to start adopting it. And that really puts us on the defensive a lot of the time. We'll create a solution to a certain street fighting scenario with the cops, and we'll create the black bloc, and it'll be really successful for a little bit. But then everybody will just start using it as a solution for everything, right? Oh, something's going down. Well, let's all put on hoodies and get our bandanas out, and not really even try to all look like one homogenous black bloc. We'll just be no, it's punk bloc time. It's time for me to wear my favorite patches and shit. It's a real performative kind of thing, and because it's a habit, because it's secure. We fall back into it. We feel comforted by it. And that kind of thing, I think, is, it's totally understandable why people do that and why we all fall into that. But I think it's really important that we try to grapple with that and try to make sure that we do try new things and that we do try to look in advance. Some of the biggest successes of anarchism, even recently, have occurred from people, sometimes really isolated individuals who weren't tapped in the punk scene, and some of them are. With the internet, a lot of the advances, a lot of reasons why the internet is so free today is precisely because there were 1, 2, 3 anarchists sitting in a corner somewhere with a laptop, or before laptops, thinking in advance, thinking 10 years, 20 years down the line. What is the NSA going to have? What are we going to have? How are we going to fight that? What is surveillance technology going to look like? How are we going to challenge and address that right now and make it impossible for them to do the thing they want to do? And we've won some things and lost other things on that front, but a lot of those people have worked in isolation. I mean, some of them, they're members of the Tor Project and other software projects and things like that. They're actually from Portland and from the punk scene here, but they were always working in isolation. The community didn't really come together and support the people who are doing that stuff because it's difficult when you're having foresight, when you're trying to go off there and think about something completely new, something that nobody else has ever thought of, and that seems disconnected from the day-to-day. The challenges that we all face and that kind of thing. So I think it's really important. I think it's really wonderful that there are new groups coming in the meeting who are so focused upon trying new things, especially new things with technology, emergency response apps in particular, the sort of thing where Nazis show up in your neighborhood, or they attack your bar, or the cops come down, or something else happens, or some crisis occurs. How do we get people out there ourselves and not the cops? How do we turn to people inside of our own community so we can settle that problem ourselves and not rely on anybody else? And that's something people have actually been talking about for a while now, but nobody's really been working that hard on a solution for it. So I think it's really encouraging that the Anarchist Black Shield is giving another shot at that, and it looks like a really serious shot. So I just want to give a real shout out to them and another round of applause for them. Yes,
want to say thank you to everyone who came out, Anarchist Black Shield and William Gillis for everything that they were just saying. Definitely going to echo some of the points that Will was just talking about. I definitely love the way that Anarchist Black Shield is taking some initiative in building new projects, kind of redefining what anarchism means in the modern age. So there's just this realization that I had recently where I've noticed that kind of everyone in my life is sad. Like everyone I know is just really, really overwhelmed. And I think that's true for all of us. And I think that comes because in the world that we live in, we're all feeling late capitalism. Like this is kind of something that people throw around a lot as a joke or seriously, and there's a lot of dialogue about it, but I don't think we ever really just kind of sit and imagine the deep psychological effects that's having on us. I mean, and there's so many good reasons to be sad, so many good reasons to be angry out there. There's a global rise in fascism. Like, more nations have fascist heads of state today than they did a year ago, and the same could have been said true a year ago. So it makes sense that we're all feeling that. But at the same time, everywhere you look, there's also resistance popping up. There are these little sparks, these little flames popping up all around the world of resistance. You've got the Zapatistas in Chiapas, you've got the Kurds in Rojava, you've got the Barcelona and Taboo movement in Barcelona. There's all these things popping up, and it's important for us to remember that we can do something about it. It seems like these huge, massive problems are something that are beyond the scope of organizing against, but all it really takes is a couple people to get together to do something new, and then do something that inspires other people to replicate their actions. And that's the type of thing that Anarchist Black Shield seems to be involved with. That's the type of thing that the Brooklyn Assembly supports. That's the type of thing that we're starting to see pop up all around the country and all around the world. And yeah, it's a really exciting time to be alive. Anarchism has always kind of been this idea, this large idea of something that we can walk towards that isn't necessarily easy to get to, but is worth trying for. And it's like, I'm trying to think of how to put this. It's like, anarchism is the horizon that we want to walk towards, and we don't really know how to get there. But like the Zapatistas said, it's like question while walking. It's just like, we just have to keep trying things and keep experimenting, like what William Gillis was saying. Just like, keep trying new things, keep innovating, keep trying out these new technologies, and doing whatever we can to spread our ideas of equality and egalitarian horizontal organizing. I think there's a lot of different approaches that we can take to do that, and I think we need to be trying all of them. I think the rapid response networks and things like that are absolutely vital, and I think assembly-based community organizing with your neighbors is absolutely vital, and I think those types of movements are popping up everywhere. And I'd just like to urge all of you to get involved in whatever projects you see in your areas. Like, I volunteer with Anarchist in Rojava and St. John's. I work with Portland Assembly, but I don't care if you work with the organizations that I work with. I just want you all to be out there organizing with someone. You just have to get out there and just throw your brain, your skills, your talents into the arena, because otherwise we're all going to die. So like, let's do something, right? Like, those are our two choices. We work together or we all die. And I know which one I want to pick. So, thank you.
wrong. That's right, that's wrong. That's wrong, it feels so right, so
showed all the footage I got. So what it was is, it's 4 bands. Here's what the flyer says. Well, actually, it says a few things. It has the 4 bands. The Latter Day Skanks. Hello, what a badass name. And I'll tell you about them in a second. But it was also the Variants, Nebraska Boy Snatchers, and Timmy the Terror and the Wintercoats. Now, here's the thing. I didn't get to see Nebraska Boy Snatchers or Timmy the Terror and the Wintercoats, but I did see the Latter Day Skanks and I did see the Variants. And the Variants were great, as you saw, and the Latter Day Skanks were great. And dude, they had like, so they're just total, like, I don't know, transgender Mormon whores, I guess, is kind of what they would have been. They were so great, though, dude. Their music was so good. And, like, they had hymnals that you could take, which is, like, the Latter-day Skanks Mormon hymnals, which is, it's just the lyrics to their songs, bro. And, like, helmets with big dildos on them, of course.
Of course.
Okay. They were so good. But and then the people from Anarchist Black Shield had a table out with all kinds of pamphlets and stuff, and then they had pamphlets from one of the speakers. So there was also the speakers. There was the 3 different people you saw already in the video, and then one of them, William Gillis, he wrote a couple of the pamphlets that were there. I grabbed them too. There's organizations versus getting shit done. And anarchy is a scale independent proposition. Those were 2 that he had written, so I grabbed those. And then the girl that you saw do the spoken word piece, she was like super involved. Obviously, she explains this, but she was super involved in organizing the event, and I talked to her, and she's interested and down with coming on our show when we really finally get into doing our 2P show on anarchism. Have her come on for the second part of that show and talk about tactics and stuff like that. And so that's going to be really cool. So they were really great, man. And the music was really fun. And so that was it. Split from the show, kind of went back to the room, and then flew out the next morning and went to the May Day March in Oakland. And because we were just actually in Portland for a wedding. And but we got to spend a whole day just kind of cruising around and going and meeting all the anarchists, right? And flew out. So I was not in Portland when the Anarchist or whatnot did whatnot at the May Day March. So I'll let you tell me what did you hear?
I mean,
what was your
I heard that that some shit went down at the May Day March in Portland, and I was like, oh wow, dude, Aaron was just there. And I happened to see the first story was on the local news, and they just said that anarchists were there and they disrupted the May Day March and threw Molotov cocktails and soda cans.
I don't know about that. Okay, well,
that's what I heard. And then I saw the story on Democracy Now, and Amy Goodman said that Molotov cocktails were thrown, and that the anarchists threw soda cans, and I guess they threw Pepsi cans in response to that. Kyle Jenner
Oh, right. The
that
Pepsi
ad, that
commercial and
Pepsi
stuff,
commercial where
right.
she just she
It's
diffused
very
the whole thing.
timely, apropos,
Right.
kind of political statement. So right. So what the mainstream
But
media
it
is
made it
saying,
sound like that anarchists are the ones that threw the Molotov cocktails and started
right,
shit.
and that's
I
kind
didn't
of
see anything on that. All I saw was some stuff burning. Looked like some trash, or maybe some a desk or something was burning.
no desks. It was trash cans and paper that they threw in the middle of the street and like lit paper. I've seen the video. You can see there's people like lighting paper on fire, and then they kind of put it inside a trash can so it lights on, and they were just kind of dumping more like parking cones, and then like other trash cans and stuff. That's all I saw as far as the fires go, and I watched a lot of the video. But so yeah, the kind of universal media narrative on it was that it was an excellent, went off like a hitch May Day march, just like all the other ones. Well, there was violence at May Day marches all over the world. There was violence in Paris. There was and clashes with police and stuff. So I mean, and May Day marches traditionally are known for that kind of thing to go down at them. It's a very confrontational by
Right.
nature.
I think there was one here in 2007 that went down here in L.A. that caused some problems. Apparently,
it's the workers rising up against
Right.
the means of production, and it's angry, and so that kind of stuff happens, right? So the way the narrative goes for the mainstream on what happened in Portland was, again, there's this great May Day march, nothing happened, everything went off without a hitch, and then all of a sudden the anarchists show up and start throwing Pepsi cans and breaking shit, and so the cops fucking declare they revoke the cops did do this, they revoked the permit for the march and said it's over, right? And because apparently, according to the mainstream media, basically the universal media narrative on it is that because the anarchists went crazy and broke shit, right? Well, there's another side to it. Okay, now again, I got to make clear, just because I was there the day before does not mean that I know any better than anybody else what happened in Portland that day. Other than I can tell you, man, the people that I met in Portland, they were anarchists, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean they were the same people that were even involved with what went on May Day, because the impression I got, and the thing that I was really, really impressed with by the anarchist community in Portland, was that there's all kinds of sort of subgroups and factioned off kind of different people that are coming at it from different perspectives. Like the first group of kids that I met at the park, which was, often just like, a few hundred yards away is the massive like craft fair going on, which was so killer. And the country's oldest, consistently running, craft fair. I think a dude said it was 44 years, running, and it was really cool. But anyway,
Okay.
So those kids, I just talked to them, went over there and, checked out the craft fair, and then went and talked to these anarchist kids in the park, who I called in and told you about. And they're just super cool kids. And I'll tell you that none of them were talking about like, man, we're going to fuck shit up tomorrow on May Day. It was like, we're going to make signs, and I got to make a sign. What I made was solidarity with workers worldwide, and they had issues with their mayor, which I mentioned when I called earlier, right? So they were kind of concerned about that. But their attitude wasn't like, man, we're going to go fucking annihilate shit tomorrow on May Day. I didn't hear anything like that. And maybe those kids weren't even there. I just don't know. The people you see getting arrested, they're all masked up and shit. So I have no idea who the fuck was involved or if they had anything to do with the anarchists I met the day before, right? So then I go to the thing at the gig, the Anarchist Black Shield show, and the speakers, you see what they're saying. They're not talking about how, we're riled up and we're going to go tomorrow and destroy. It was like, how do we be smarter? How do we have, be a few steps ahead of what's going on so that we can confront and like defend ourselves? Here, check it out. On their Anarchist Black Shield flyer, it says, it lists the things that are sort of, it's not necessarily a mission statement, but it lists the things that Anarchist Black Shield is interested in accomplishing, right? Top of the list, conflict resolution. That's one of the things they're focused on. Self-defense and arms training, tech security, solidarity response network, printing and distribution, anarchist mental health response. So that just doesn't sound like go out and fucking break shit. That's not the perspective, and that wasn't the narrative I got. Now, again, that doesn't mean none of the people I met may have even been there at all. Maybe they were. I can't know. But I didn't hear anybody talking about that was the intent, right? They were stoked. They were getting ready for May Day. They were all kind of hyped up. And, yeah, it's May Day because people who are active and into demonstrating and stuff, May Day is kind of like Christmas, you know, for frickin' socialists and anarchists and activist people. May Day is the day. It's the Workers' Day globally. It's from 1886. It started, bro, because that's why we have a minimum wage or an 8-hour work week or an 8-hour work day. That was because of May Day.
Right.
That's May Day, and like, so it's just.
Well, we have a 5-day work week.
It's right. It's the Christmas for activism, right? So people, of course, they were all excited about it. Now, you know what happened? Okay, so now you've heard kind of what everyone knows, kind of the mainstream media perspective on it, and I'll read you. This is from the Portland May Day Coalition Facebook page. Now, here, check it out. If what went down was these people from Portland May Day Coalition put together this amazing frickin' march, and everything goes off without a hitch. You know, the march goes. They started. You know, every march starts at a place, and then they usually have speeches, and then they march, and then they get to the other place, and everyone gathers and hangs out. And you know, there's booths, and you get to buy pamphlets and books and make food, and there's all that kind of stuff going on. That's what was going on in Oakland when I went there the next day. So that's the routine, right? So if that's the case, everything's going off like a hitch. It does the march, it gets to the end, and then a bunch of anarchists show up and fucking break shit. You'd think the May Day, coalition might be a little upset, right? They'd be like, "You fucking anarchists, you fucked up our march. You got you got our permit revoked and everything." So this is their pinned post on their page. This is their response, and this was that night they responded. Today, the Portland police chose to violently escalate a peaceful march. The people asserted their lawful right to be in the streets and express solidarity with immigrants, with workers, with indigenous sovereignty, and against capitalism. The Portland Police Bureau responded by 1, forcibly removing the accessibility vehicle, which was present to allow those with mobility issues to participate and raise their voices. So, you know, the vehicle that they had there for people with unquote mobility issues, they just came in and took it, forcibly removing it. Like, okay. So number 2, fabricating stories about Molotov cocktails being thrown at them, which thousands of eyewitness reports will refute. 3, trying at every step of the way to force themselves into a crowd that very clearly did not want them there. 4, arbitrarily revoking the march permit and informing only the rear of the march, while the elderly, youth, and folks with mobility issues were at the front of the march. Now, that becomes relevant with a couple comments that I'm going to read here in a second. So they wrap up their post by saying there will be a lot of articles about, quote, the march turning violent, but make no mistake, the PPB attacked a permitted march whose only goal was to keep moving along its planned route because some noisemakers and name-calling were enough of an excuse for them to use their large surplus of explosives and chemical weapons against those who had committed to rise, resist, and unite against fascism and capitalism. Okay, so that's their side of it. Now, this dude gets on here and he says on their Facebook page, he posts this comment. Now, for the May Day March organizers, I want to join others and call bullshit. It is your responsibility to communicate to the people participating in the march you organized when and if there is something they need to know, like our march permit just got pulled. Don't blame the Portland police for your failure to plan for various contingencies. Okay, so Portland May Day Coalition responded. The permit revocation was announced via loudspeaker to the back of the march, not communicated directly to us or even to our police liaison, who had been communicating directly with police all day. The front and middle of the march didn't hear it, contributing to the fear and confusion of that moment. Shortly afterwards, the police deployed chemical weapons at the back of the march. When the entire march was finally aware of what was happening, we helped families and disabled folks leave the area and tried to get the remaining marchers onto the sidewalk. Okay? And then he kind of doubles down. He's saying, you know, you have good points. But anyway, I don't need to read the other comment, but here's their response again. We did have folks with walkie-talkies stationed throughout the march. That's the only reason we were able to communicate about what was happening in time to get the families and disabled folks out.
We prepped our security to respond to threats from armed fascists and white supremacists. We didn't prep them to protect the crowd from police attacks. That was a mistake. Okay? So there's another side.
Dude.
There's another side. Okay? And I was not there just as much as probably everyone listening to our show was not there. Okay? So I don't know. Okay? I guess it's it's up for you to decide. I can't say, and I don't know where I'm at with, here's the thing. So if that's the case, if the cops antagonized it and then just shut the thing down, and after being, kind of combative and whatever with the anarchist all day, if what Portland Mayday Coalition side is saying is true, okay, then they're antagonized. And so when they shut down the thing and basically by the cops shutting it down and kind of creating confusion, sounds like, yeah, maybe some anarchists said, all right, fuck it. Fuck them. They don't get to do this. We're going to go ape shit now. And so they did. And so it started off with that, very poignant, timely statement of throwing the Pepsi can at the cop based on the commercial and whatever, right? And,
right.
and then set off. And what they did, and I'm going to supply 3 videos that I'm going to drop in right now, and you'll get to hear them in the video and see them. And it shows them, it shows the aftermath of them wrecking City Hall. It shows them breaking windows at Target and throwing a flare into Target. It shows them beating the piss out of a cop car and throwing flares in it through the broken window. And of course, it's going to start off, actually, the anarchists, when they were marching in May Day, they made these badass, like, big, giant, black spider floats. And so you'll see some footage of that floating through there
cool.
in the video coming up. So, listen, it was such a trip, bro, that I spent the day there, and then that happened the next day. And I could just tell you honestly, right. I just didn't hear anybody saying that they were going to do that. That's just the honest truth. And so I'm not here to say what they did was right or wrong. I'm not here to say that the mainstream media necessarily has it wrong and Portland Mayday Coalition has it right. I'm here to say there's another side. Here's the 2 sides. There we go. And I think that's pretty good, bro. Why don't we just show them all the video?
Sounds good, man.
And later.
At least one police car and busted out a number of windows, including at the popular downtown Target. A number of people also arrested. We have our crews out on the street right now. We want to go first to our Cole Miller. Cole?
Well, Jennifer, Jeff, good evening. What a scene, what a day it's been, what a few hours it's been. We're here at City Hall where things have, for the most part, come to an end. As soon as this bus passes, I want to push in. You can still see a limited police presence, much smaller than what we've seen before. That's just up the road at Southwest 6th and Madison. Now, if we can turn our attention back over here to City Hall, this is kind of a small example of what we've seen really all over the city, the graffiti. And as we make our way down here, excuse us, folks, we have some windows smashed. This one staying intact, but others not. And if we continue down this way, another one smashed here. This is at City Hall, those basement level windows. If we can here, let's go ahead and roll some video from about an hour and a half or so ago. So we started our day right around 2nd and Morrison. We had a feeling some of these people may try to cross the bridges. Surely enough, police had those blocked off. From there, things kind of came to a standstill. We didn't see a whole lot of movement happening. That's when police said that this peaceful protest had descended into what really became a riot. They flat out called it that. That's what they were saying. On Morrison, we marched west up to 10th. That's where we saw fires in the intersection, newspaper stands, traffic cones thrown into the street and lit on fire. And then from there at Southwest 10th and Morrison, there was a city Target. That's where we saw the windows smashed, kicked out, and then a flare thrown in inside of that Target. From there, just up the block, it was a Portland police SUV smashed literally every panel, busted in, and then someone tried to throw a flare in the back of that police car. That flare thankfully did not start a fire. Okay, we'll come back out here live. Again, City Hall is where this kind of came to an end for the most part. We haven't heard of much going on, but we were coming down Madison, and right at about 5th, we saw officers coming from 4th, essentially boxing people in right here, detaining them, throwing them to the ground, tying them up with those zip ties. And then after that, about a half hour goes by, things really returning to normal. TriMet moving, the MAX trains all moving, people commuting again at a good pace here. But we are going to continue to follow this. Of course, if anything else is going on, we'll be sure to make our way over there. But for now, we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.